Hello there and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now today is the 1st of January, so first and foremost, Happy New Year to all of you out there. Now we are going to be starting our year with a Mary Poppins quote, which says, "Well begun is half done." And we are going to be putting our gardener's best foot forward, and we are going to be doing something that you have to do every single year, is cleaning and sharpening our gardening tools. So let's turn around to the table and have a look at the tools of our trade. Now on the table, I have my secateurs, my snips, loppers, axe and spade, and down the steps I have my garden lawnmower. Having and keeping these tools in optimum condition saves you time and energy, amen to sprained or strained wrists. It also avoids ragged cuts or tears on your shrubs and trees, which reduces any chance of infection. So, sharp blade equals clean cut equals healthy tree. Now, sharpening tools has always been a problem for me, namely because I'm totally useless and with a whetstone, I am incapable of hitting the same angle twice in a row. So, I'm always on the lookout for little gadgets that can help me along the way. Now, this is by no means a sponsored video. Simply, I just found this little gadget online. I find it absolutely fantastic and I'd just like to share it with you. And it is this. It's like, it fits onto a power tool. It's like the normal ones you fit onto a power tool, except it's got a guided sharpening system. This black part is completely flat, and then the grinding stone is at a 25-degree angle, which gives you the precision cut you need on your blade. Now, the tool itself is just called multi-sharp, and it's a guided sharpening system, and you see it's specific for a rotary mower and a tool sharpener. Now, the first thing we need to do is make sure this little screw on the top is tight, because it can work itself loose, and you don't want the whetstone flying off. Now, we're going to fit it to our power tool. And we are ready to go. Right, now in order to clean my snips, I need to take it apart, and the way I do it, so there's no room for error, especially with me, is that as I take each part off, I leave it in a descending order. That way, the last thing off is the first thing back. So off we go. No, wrong side. So that just pops out, goes furthest up. No, probably need a hammer. Hammer. Just knock it out. There we go. Got one washer here, and I should have another pressure washer. There it is on the other side. So there we have it so far. You can see up there in descending order. So when I remount it, it's going to be the opposite way. Right, so here we have our secateurs, well, our snips best said, completely apart. And now what I do is just bring in a basin of water and suds and one of these metallic scourers. And I just give it a good going over. Now I won't have to give this particular one too much of a going over because I did it quite recently, because my snips I always like in optimum condition. Because I'd probably say about 60% of the work I use is about 60% with the snips and 40% with the secateurs. So I like my snips very sharp and very clean. Right, and they're dead easy to take apart and put back together, so no problem there. Now, on these snips, see if you can see here, one side is slightly serrated because that's the side that grabs onto what you're cutting, and the other side is what needs to be sharpened, which is this side, is the beveled side. So I'm going to be running the sharpener over this side. So I'm going to insert the flat part of my blade, which is this side, beside the black part of the grinding stone, and the bevel part will slot in to the actual grinding side. So let's go. And all you have to do is just go up and down, nice and slowly. Important you do not push down or push forward on this. Just ever so gently, backwards and forwards. Always make sure it's wet, because things do grind better when they're wet. Friction that creates heat is never good. Goodness, that's nice and sharp. Now this, as I said, has been sharpened quite recently, so it doesn't really need very much. There's no little indentations or anything like that. A nice sharp blade. But first, an oiling. Now I use this oil, it's just a spray on oil, and it's very useful for garden tools. So easy to spray on. Just a minute, I need to get a cardboard for this. Don't want to mess up my table. Now, just spray this on both sides. Just dry that off. Obviously, it'll stop it from getting rusty. It's nice and clean. Now all I need to do is put it back together. Absolutely perfect. And now we're going to put it through its paces. This is the spider plant, and as we know as gardeners, that if you have a dull blade or a blunt blade, it is almost impossible to cut these. So just one hand, and it's going through it like butter. So that's one down and 4 to go. Now the loppers are slightly easier because you don't have to take them apart, just open them wide. And the bevel side is underneath here and the flat part is up here. So flat part up, 25-degree angle underneath. Right, next comes the spade. Now if you have a look at it up close, this part of it is straight, but as soon as you get down to the cutting part, it does in actual fact have a beveled side. There you can see it. This last sort of like 2 millimeters is beveled all the way around the cutting edge of the spade, and the other side is flat. So again, we'll be using our 25-degree angle to sharpen it. Just lay it on the table to keep it nice and firm. And from here, down here, and back up to here, we've got to sharpen to keep this nice and sharp. Now you might never have thought it's necessary to keep a spade sharp, but it makes life so much easier. You can see it much better now, the bevel side, good cutting edge. Now it's down here that this little gadget really gets into its element with a lawnmower. Lawnmower blades get dull very quickly because we hit little stones or branches or debris in general on the lawn. And frankly, having to take the whole thing apart and remove the blades is an absolute pain in the butt. But with this little gadget, you don't have to remove the blades. So it's very easy. Once every 4 weeks, just slot it in, sharpen it, turn it round, sharpen it on the other side, and hey presto, it's done. It's that easy. So I'm just going to wet the blade now, just to show you how easy it is. Slot it in, flat side to flat side. The bevel side, make sure the bevel side is on the inside. So always when you twist it round, make sure that the flat side is facing the black part and the bevel side is onto the ground stone, okay? Not only sharpens it, but it does get rid of the indentations. Now if you have a lot of indentations, don't try and get rid of all of them. You're just going to wear away your blade. But just get rid of those pesky bigger ones. We'll just give it a bit more now, both on the stone itself and on the blade. And remember, don't push down, just be very gentle with it. Very gentle. Going until you've got the blade or the texture or the sharpness that you want, and then you turn it round and repeat the same on the second side, making sure again, as I said, flat side towards you, towards the black, and bevel side towards the grinding stone. Again, always grind wet, that way you get no heat build up. Now, since we're down here, the other thing you've got to make sure is that there's no build-up of thatch on the actual deck. As you can see, a deck is made up of different shapes and forms. There are two main reasons why your grass clogs in the hole here instead of going into the bagging bag. One is a dull blade, and two is thatching on your deck. So always make sure your deck is nice and clean. Just give it a nice scrub, loosen all that thatch, and then give it a good wash down with the hose pipe. If you have a pressure washer, even better. But it is important for all these nooks and crannies to be clean, because these nooks and crannies causes this air turbulence, which makes the grass cuttings fly at different speeds and different heights and different ways, and that way go easily out the hole and into your bagging bag without getting clogged up here, which is a nuisance. What is important is to get these type of jobs out of the way now while we still have time. We all know as gardeners that next month in February is going to be very busy. We're getting our seedling trays prepared and we're planting our seeds, and the trees, you'll see the buds beginning to swell, and we know that pruning time is approaching fast. And there is nothing worse than when you want a pruning session to find that every single one of your tools are dull and they wouldn't even cut butter if you wanted to. We have got to be ready to hit the ground running when that pruning time is here. So, as Mary Poppins said, well begun is half done. So we're going to be putting our best gardening foot forward, and this week we're going to be sharpening our tools. Isn't that right? So I'll see you next week, hopefully with sharpened tools, on Friday. Bye bye now.